Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
I just like hearing people say your name correctly. That's all. As we welcome you in, we're like gonna Simadonna as I'm back with a little normalcy. And Jacob Padilla, it gets kind of heated between shows, and our coworker is a big personality, and we both traveled with him, and so we gotta decompress after spending an inordinate amount of time with Mike Sauter.
Yeah, the 30 minutes between shows would have made for some interesting airtime if
I don't even think we can say half of that stuff, right? So. But I just listen, man. So it's good to get some kind of how I typically like to operate in neutral. Did you feel like he was pushing my buttons? You came in laughing, which I'm like, wait, we're supposed to be on the same team, but you're objective.
You guys push each other's buttons, like it's you push back and then you fire him up, and then that gets you even more fired up, and it just kind of happens like this.
I get it, man. He's in love with Bellevue West. It's fine.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
You know, 9 of 11 returning offensive linemen. So look out, America. It was what he was telling me. I understand.
Hey, we got to find somebody that's going to push West Side. Like we got to make this season interesting.
How about Burt and company at Prep? No, Grand Island, Kearney. We got to go out to Kearney. So I'm in a bind because I have a broadcast for the radio network, Illinois, because somehow they thought it was a great idea to move that game to Friday night, and we're in Kearney, and they're going to be good.
Nope. Fire up the private jet.
Yeah, do you have one of those? Hey, if you had one of those, that would be great, right? Because, hey, I'll take care of you, man. You look out for me as we welcome you into another fantastic week of NEB Preps. One of the cool things, and I know you guys think I'm joking, I enjoy being with him every week, Jacob, just because levity is good, right? Mr. Even Killed. Sometimes it's about the data, but a lot of times it's data with an opinion. So I know it's like it's coming from a good place, and you like kids, so you don't lack objectivity. I like that.
Yeah. Try my best. Just kind of do it the only way I know how. So
how are you winding down the huge project of the yearbook? I mean, I've talked to you. Yeah. We're going to have Eric Francis on next week because it's coming out. We talked to Brandon Vogel. Like, is that a monster?
It is. Feel good to have my feature off my plate, and it features prominently one of our own Nebraska Preps kids that we talked about on the show before, in AJ Rollins.
Nice.
We're kind of exploring the rules philosophy about kind of just letting kids change positions and experimenting, maybe suggesting the kids coming to him and like, go ahead, like just kind of how that works out, how it's worked out for him in the past, how some of the biggest winners from spring, based on what the coaches said, are guys that have played that's changed to new positions. So just kind of explored all that throughout everything we've heard throughout this spring and from the players themselves and the coaches and everything. So
that's weird about. Because with Tagovailoa, Rollins, Bullock, Bonner, all guys that have changed positions. I wonder how much of that is kind of like why people listen to you, right? Trust. Because they appreciate the information that you're putting out. They know that you've been there. Like Coach Rule he's transformed guys, and he's been in the NFL. So I think they trust his judgment.
I think either Tony White or was it Tony White or I can't remember now. One of the assistant coaches. It was either White or Knighton that used that word trust when AJ having fun, was all about it. And AJ himself said he believes that Rule knows what he's talking about. So he attacked the position change and performed well in it. So excited to have that off my plate. That's off to the editors, off to the designers for Quentin to start getting that on the page. I got one last little push here in terms of writing. And then from there on, it's all editing, copying, reading it over, seeing what everybody else has done. So excited. We're kind of in that final push here. And I think fans are really going to enjoy this once we get it out to mailboxes.
Yeah, speaking of final push, it's the last weekend of competitive AAU basketball before we get into what the high schools will do in the summer. Nice little break, or
Yeah, it's like we just talked about the yearbook. It's been a perfect timing for a break for me personally, coaching wise. So I could focus on this on the weekends versus having practices and spending all weekends out in gyms. Although this weekend, the first kind of event of, I mean, it's not really June, but first high school event that kind of starts everything, the MBDA freshman tournament, 8th and 9th grade tournament. I'll be down there Saturday and Sunday. So that'll be fun. We can talk about that next week. But yeah,
and you like kind of getting a head start. You have a good balance, right? You're not quite some of the guys that dive all in the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, but you're not Sauter either, where you can only you need to do it for a year first before it's like. So you're kind of somewhere in the middle, because I think you trust your talent. I too.
Yeah, and so since like moving up to coach in high school, I don't see the youth as much as I used to. Like guys coming up 7th, 8th grade, like Josiah Dotzler in his class. Like I saw those guys play from like Caleb, like 4th, 5th grade all the way up.
Yeah.
So I don't see that. So this MBDA freshman tournament, in a lot of ways, is kind of an introduction to the guys that are going to eventually, because that's the fun thing about this is like there are a lot of schools that have freshmen play reserve, JV, varsity. So it's not just straight like freshman teams around the state. Like these are the best freshmen that that are all able to come play. They put them all together and go, just let them go. So it's kind of fun to watch and see, especially some of the smaller school, like guys teams that I know, like this is a kid that we're going to be talking about down the road. Good to see him in person in this setting. So
and the D stands for developmental, right? So like with the MBDA, like that's a big part of it.
And that's the cool, like the first half of all these games, it's equal playing time. Like you set up teams, and one group plays the whole first quarter, another group plays the whole second quarter, and then second half you can mix and match and coach to win. But so it gives you that mix of great opportunity for everybody, but also the competition as well, and going all out to go win that championship.
Do you kind of like that model? Because I think sometimes these developmental programs and summer basketball programs, it's a lot like Nebraska football. Sometimes they're afraid to say out loud that they're a developmental program because you don't think that you can attract high-end talent. Others kind of play in both worlds, say we have some high-end stuff that we do, but there's also some skill development here. Like, how important do you think the developmental piece is for a program for retention?
It's huge. And again, especially the younger you are, the more important development is. Like each year, I think, of high school, that equation shifts a little bit, where early on development is the most important thing. And part of that is competition level. So like that's where the playing at the higher level comes in to play, because that helps you get better. But it's also everything that goes into work between the games and the way you play and all that type of stuff. And then the older you get at that, like by the time you're 17 years old, there's only so much development that you're going to be able to do in a summer. It's more about kind of refining your skills. Like you've put in the work at this point. You got to go show who you are as a player and who you can become. So it's all it's relative to kind of where you are in your track as a player. But that development is always important, and that's something you should always be looking for.
Where do you want to start?
Well, like you said, we're kind of in that transition period. The ETG teams are heading out. The 16s and 17s heading out to California.
Yeah,
for
just the two guys.
Yeah,
and I think it's two separate tournaments. They'll play a 2-day, and then they start another one on Sunday. So they don't come back until Tuesday.
Wow.
And they've got to be at the airport in the morning at 4:30. So I'm not excited. But it is. I mean, we're obviously sending them. Maya has graduation on Saturday, which I would love a little adjustment in the May calendar, because between graduation and tournaments, like it's kind of a tough month.
It's worked out well for me because like the last, I've hit up like 3 grad parties for my OSA kids that are graduating now, and I got one down in Lincoln, so I'll be able to skip over from the NBA tournament to check out that one, and then got one on Sunday, then one next week. So I like how the setup for me, I was able to get through my spring coaching wise, and now I've got the weekends and some time to go stop by those and say hi to families and kids.
Yeah, so the event it's 2-1. It's they're going to play the initial tournament on Friday and Saturday, then play another tournament starting on Sunday. They don't have the second schedule out yet, but it is the Magic Memorial, so it will be very, very high quality basketball just outside Los Angeles area, close to Venice Beach.
Should be fun, and we'll hit on how that goes for them next week. Kind of final AAU recap till we get to July. And then we're diving into all the June stuff. So
I'll be seeing you a lot in
basketball.
gyms, watching high school games, which I actually kind of like.
Yeah. It's fun, kind of, and you got some football stuff mixed in as well. You'll be busy with that. So gonna be a busy month for kids, kind of balancing the two. That's a nice thing about like the way we structured here is like kids have a couple weeks off for the most part. Like the ETG, they got a couple weeks off in between before this tournament. So you get a little bit of time to rest and recuperate before you dive into your high school teams, as opposed to playing straight through. I see there's still tournaments going on like the last couple of weeks, like nationwide. I'm like, it feels weird to be sitting at home when you've got a chance, like you could go play, but it's smart to be to give them that time, because you don't want to burn out and anything like that. And if you've got a minor injury, it's good to be able to rest up for that, because this June stuff is important for your future.
I know, a lot of times we always go back and forth, you and I, the last couple of years we've been doing this, what to take away from the high school session in June. Last year it was, we wanted to see a couple of guys, right? There were new faces in new places. This summer, the high school basketball, that league, may be pretty important for us to pay attention to, because there are several, not just new faces, but key faces in new places.
It's interesting, like talking on transfers here, people that we know are moving on. Lincoln was wild this offseason, kind of the shuffling. It's the Metro hasn't seen as much like high level varsity starter, like impact players transfer, but there have been a few. I mean, right off top, Bellevue West, Jane Cassio Jensen going back there for a second stint.
So started
Fremont,
left,
Bell West, Fremont,
Bell West. Yeah.
So, and that's the team. Obviously, a lot of their depth graduated. They're still going to be tough there with Jane Jackson, Eldon Turner, Jacob Arope, Robbie Garcia, Stephen Polachek's having a good spring. Will play a big role for them. So like that's like he'll help there. They don't, beyond that, I don't think they have as much depth as they did last year. So him coming in there gives you another guy that, I mean, he averaged 11 points a game, shot 37% from three last year.
Familiar with Coach Woodard, can play a couple of different ways. Even though Coach Klein has taken over.
That's the other thing. Like now we're Klein always coached June.
Yeah.
Now it's just
it's his show.
Now it's going to coach June and in the winter. So that's probably, in terms of like contenders, like ones you expect to be right near the top. That's probably the most significant one.
Although there's one that I think kind of flies under the radar when you talk Westview to West Side, which was a little bit of a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Carson Healy heading back to Omaha West Side, about 12 points a game last year for Westview. Again, like you said, or like we were talking about, you got to replace some depth there. You've got a strong core coming back with Caleb Benning, CJ Mitchell, Kevin Stubblefield. You've got Ricky Lofton, who finished really strong, be part of that core,
and now will be fully healthy.
Yeah, and a year removed from the ACL, or a year of recovery under his belt now, and more than a year removed. But so yeah, you guys, you're going to be looking for some depth with Trell Snoddy, Tyson Oddbody. Carson's sliding right in there.
Donnie Barfield.
And Max Anderson, like group coming back that was kind of on your bench last year. Not a ton of them played much. You need at least one of those guys to emerge as a starter and six man and provide some depth there. So Carson will fit right in there. Central benefited well
tremendously.
The
last 2 years, that roster has all but flipped, right? You take a good portion of South, it goes to Central. Yeah. You get a real key addition this year.
Yeah, and actually a couple of them I found out. So Daleron Thomas heading from Omaha North to Omaha Central.
That's a shocker. That was one of Coach Lichty's. I mean, that was his guy early on, a guy that you could build a program around. The older brother went to North, and I think that one surprised some people when they first heard, but then kind of understood maybe the backstory. But that had to be that's a blow to Omaha North.
Yeah, about 14 points, 4 boards, 3 assists a game, heading to Central there, and then Kevon Newsom from Omaha Benson, tackling a machine on the
Heck of a
football field.
linebacker.
Yeah, 13 points, 8 boards, 2.5 assists, 3.5 steals, 51% from the field last year. Quietly had a really good year for the Bunnies, who didn't have a ton of success.
He should be getting a lot more looks in football as well. He's a very good football player. I've had a couple of schools ask about him as of late.
So you've got those two playing together with Devin Holman for Omaha Elite in the spring. Those guys are going to play with him, and Elijah Martin going back there, played as started as a sophomore last year. So Central lost their kind of Whitmammer and a few other guys that were kind of their leaders there, but they're reloading. They're going to be tough again. So that's the team that you probably keep an eye out for. We're still trying to get this situation 100% sorted out, but Gretna might be getting a front court transfer that would help them. We won't mention name until we know for sure, but
and I know he's looked around quite a bit if it's the same person we're talking about. So, and
they already had Cade Cook transfer in mid-year last year, and he's had a really good spring. So you add him to,
he's going to help them quite a bit. And I think he's settled into the system now. It wasn't as quick a transition. He's handling the ball. Coach Feek and Coach, they'll figure out how to utilize Cade Cook.
Yeah, so
to go with Wilcoxon and Pekorski, that's
formidable.
Wilkins
and Trevin Wilkins play.
You'll get a younger. I was just getting ready to say you'll get a younger Wilkins as well.
So and Joey Veith, hopefully getting healthy. Hopefully his back stays healthy. So you got Ty Smolinski coming back last year, obviously multi-sport kid,
big fan.
Glue guy there for them. So they're going to be right up near the top again. Especially you get a little bit front court help to replace what they lost with Jeff Roselle to balance that out.
I actually think the top 3 from last year will be the top 3 this year in the preseason. You can flip-flop Westside or Gretna however you want. I'd probably make Gretna 2, Westside 3, but I do think you start with Bellevue West at number 1.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. Then
the usual suspect, Miller North, will be right there.
They'll be right there, and they don't have that transfer out. Caleb Steele went to join his brother at Platteview, but they're kind of running back with their guys this year.
Running back.
Got the chance for some guys that have put in time in the JV level, sued varsity last year to kind of fill out that bench. So beyond that, I think there's Brandon Jarman from Omaha Benson also went to Omaha Bryan, giving them a point guard, kind of backcourt player, 14 points.
Coach Gully's a guy I would enjoy playing for, I think.
Yeah. So that'll give them some guard play to go with. Amir Martin with Amari Bynum coming back. Rylan Rodriguez, who's improved greatly, will help them as well.
He's coming off a good spring, isn't he?
So Brian's got a chance to keep progressing.
I think they should be in everybody. I don't know about their depth, right? But I think their top 4 or 5 maybe as good as anybody else's. If you kind of put them in a blender and shake it up, maybe top 2 or 3. 4 or 5 maybe stretches. They're top 2 or 3 for sure.
But they've got a chance to progress this year. And then we move down to Lincoln. And all right, lock in here because it might be tough to keep track of. But so first, BJ Bradford and Mari Shoemaker, the 2 guards from Lincoln Southeast, they both transferred to Lincoln Southwest. Bradford averaged 8 points, 3 assists.
Good player.
Shoemaker averaged 4.5 points, shot 43% from 3. By the end of the year, he had stepped into a starting role in the postseason for them. So those are 2 guys that are heading to Southeast, or heading from Southeast to Southwest. Bon Bom transferred from Southwest to Southeast, so kind of went the other way. Averaged 9.5 points last year, and you've got Jackson Cruz going from Lincoln Northeast to Lincoln Southwest. The freshman playing the ETG this year.
If you're keeping track at home, Southwest roster has almost flipped.
Yeah,
because they're losing another good one too.
Chuck Love going from Lincoln Southwest to Lincoln Northeast. Their leading scorer, 17 points, 4 boards, shot 38% from 3 last year. So that's certainly interesting. A lot of shuffling there.
Stay right there just for a second. Right? Do you remember? So maybe South to Central, because we just saw that last year and 2 years ago.
And obviously the coaching change played the most significant role there.
Chubbuck Jr. goes from South to Central. You could see that. But do you remember kind of some rivals without real coaching changes, just basically trading places?
not to this degree with so many
they're good players.
Yeah. You've got kind of players moving all over the place. Quinn Wetherell from Lincoln Northeast, they're going to Lincoln East. Really good player, 9 points, efficient last year. Chewy Thoat off the Southeast bench, transferred to Lincoln North Star, give them little kind of front court size and skill.
It seems kind of flying under the radar. Do you remember the stretch that he had against Westside early in the opener?
Yeah, he had a couple nights, and that's
his third quarter going into the fourth. I felt like he was the difference.
And,
now Westside was a little shorthanded, but for a guy that didn't really play until the second half, I felt like he changed the game.
And that's like Southeast had probably more body and more playable players than you had room for in rotation. So it's not shocking to see some of these guys move, but the degree that it happened is certainly interesting. Drew Drake from Lincoln Pius played off the bench, 5 points, 1.5 assists, shot 36% from 3. He's also going to Lincoln Southwest. So their backcourt completely flipped around.
Their roster, that's 4 new additions just like that for Coach Ba.
And they've still got
Frager.
Frager obviously building around in the middle. Kavion Reynolds, Carter Chamberlain, turning player for them, will be a senior. Jackson Carpenter. So they got a lot of guards over there now.
I'm curious to see, and maybe it's as much football as it is basketball, but I'm a big Jackson Carpenter guy. Yeah. I think he's kind of flying under the radar, especially with his athleticism.
Yeah, tough and a good athlete. Just got to kind of now moving into junior year, figure out a way to use it better on the basketball court to be more productive. But yeah, certainly he's one of those guys in this NBDA tournament that was like, oh, he's getting up there and punching it as an eighth grader.
Fast, long, big Carpenter guy.
Yeah, Southwest won the tournament 2 years ago with Carpenter and Chuck Love and Frager, all those guys playing as 8th graders, playing up to beat Southeast, I believe. So that was fun seeing those guys come up. So it's a lot of people in new places. You got Shook John going from Omaha Benson Northwest, averaged 11.5 points last year, 9 boards. So that'll help them. But
I actually like the job Coach Perry's doing at Northwest. And you know what I like the most? It doesn't always yield results, but his camps and clinics,
putting in the effort
and putting in the time to help kids out. I'm a big fan.
And that's something I always appreciate about the way Chad Mustard attacked that Bell East program.
Similar,
where you got to put in the legwork because you're playing from behind. So you've got to find a way from lowest levels to develop, to get kids in there, to get them extra work. And that's stuff that I saw him firsthand doing. Congrats to him moving on to Roncalli now, and congrats to Trevor Lanier, alum there, taking over, kind of keep that continuity going.
So quietly, right? And because they've had to move on from Orr, you lose your basketball coach, assumes administrative duties. That was kind of a transition at Roncalli. You had a good football hire a couple years ago. You had a good baseball hire. The way that they built their sports staff has been, I like what Roncalli's doing, because they've kind of kept it in the family, even though that they've changed faces.
Yeah,
so it's been pretty good.
Indeed. So we got busy month ahead. Like I said, we've got stuff out in California to talk about next week at the NBDA tournament, and we'll be diving into June after that, all the summer leagues, all the weekend tournaments. Be fun.
We just brought in her horizons. We're trying to keep you covered. It's a lot to keep up with. You may have to go back and play that on slow down the audio to catch it all.
Get a notebook out with you
Yeah.
and mark it down.
A lot of moving parts. He's one of the best in the business. That's Jacob Padilla. I'm Old DB. It's another episode of Nebraska Preps Postgame. We'll be back next week. Don't you dare miss us.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.